Good morning, Freedom Junkies. So, I'm gonna try and do my slam today. I got a couple of hours before I have to go into work. See if I can knock it out this morning. I'm on a pond I've never fished on before, but a good friend of mine told me that there was fish here, so we'll see if there is. Alright guys, I already did my unboxing, but real quickly, I'll go through the lures I have to catch fish on today. I have my Lucky Craft crankbait. I have an IMA crankbait. My Savage Gear little Sluggo sticks with a little head there for them. I have a swim jig. I'm actually going to pair that with a hyper worm, and then I have the little net bait. Just doing a quick little walk around here and see what I have. Again, not on a boat, obviously. I'm gonna be walking around trying to accomplish this today. Walking around and seeing what I have in here to throw at. I'm probably gonna have some success in some of these darker baits. The water is a little bit stained, but we'll see. I'm gonna see if I can knock out a couple of the baits I don't have as much confidence in first, especially in a lake I don't know, mainly these two. I don't know how deep the lake is, and we're gonna go from there. Alright guys, so that was a little bit of what I was scared of. They have netting and whatnot all in here since it is a man-made pond, and I caught it with one of my crankbaits. So won't be able to complete the entire slam, being that I'm now down one bait. I'm going to tie on the Lucky Craft here and making a shot at it. not the morning we wanted out there. Again, this is my first time fishing at this particular pond. I wasn't even sure there was bass in here. It turns out, I know for a fact, there is at least one. Let's go over the baits again that we got in here. So we had the Savage Gear, we had the net baits, the pack of Slims. We had the Lucky Craft, the swim jig. We had the little wacky weedless jig heads. And we had the IMA. All right. Quick wrap up on these. The Lucky Craft. Lucky Craft, I threw on a medium power Ducket Ghost. As all Lucky Crafts are, I mean, it tracks great out of the box. The only issue here is that this pond, you know, there's areas that are only 6 inches deep and they're all over this place. So that would get to my next part as well. So the IMA crankbait, I was throwing and I threw it for maybe 10 minutes or so and got it caught on a little on a net. There's, you know, in these man-made lakes, they have a lot of nets that they use to reinforce things on the side when they were building them. So I got it caught on one of those and broke it off. Didn't want that to happen to my Lucky Craft as well, so I threw it for a few minutes. Same thing, it was just digging along the bottom the whole way, getting caught up on things. I decided, you know what, I don't even know if there's bass in this lake, so we're gonna skip that for now. I'll throw it and I'll review it and stuff later. But so then we moved on to the jig. So with the jig, I put a little, almost like a hyper worm on there as a trailer, and the action on that is great. You're able to throw it in cover, you can get it out. It's got a big beefy hook on it. One of the downsides, actually I like the skirt that's on it right now, but one of the downsides is that this guard on there is huge. So, you know, it's not all that big of an issue. You can cut that off. You can make that a little bit thinner, but I wanted to fish it just the way it was out of the box. Action's great. I have no hesitation to throw that again. I will definitely catch fish on that product. You know, the only downside, like I said, at this point I still was unaware of what was in this this lake. So then I switched over to more of a confidence lure for me. I started throwing the little wacky jig head hook weedless with a wacky rig on there, and the Savage Gear armor tube worm. Now this worm is awesome. I threw this around for, I don't know, a couple of hours, and it got nibbled on a couple of times, but you know, there's no breaking this worm, and that's kind of the cool thing is, even if I ever got it hung up, I was able to rip it out and not have any issues there. I also liked that the hook on here was weedless. That has that tiny little weed guard on there. Now for the negative. As you guys can probably see, the gap between you know, the eyelet and going down is too small. I could have bent that out a little bit. I could have changed hooks, but again, I wanted to fish it the way that it came right out of the package. And so that was the main issue. This actually got bit a couple of times, and same thing. You'd see him start to swim away with it, and you go to set that hook, and it would pop right out of its mouth. You know, that big weight would hit the mouth, it'd open the mouth, and then that tiny little hook would pull right through. You know, to me that's quite an issue. It's an issue on a lot of these kind of baits. I would much rather have a smaller weight or a weight that's down towards the shank. You know, an eyelet maybe that's up top gave me a little bit more room there to peg those fish. You know, it kind of left me thinking, you know, what kind of bite am I going to have to get in order to be able to land this fish just right? And that was, you know, I'm sure that there's a little bit of a trick to it if I was to just tighten up on it, you know, and then pull through or something. But when, you know, I'm out here on a place I don't know how much fish there are out here in the first place, you know, work for a couple hours to get that bite, and I get it, I'm excited. This is gonna pop right out of the fish's mouth, and that's exactly what happened. The worm itself actually has really good action. I would have expected nothing less. So when you throw it, it flaps in there. It looks really good. It calls fish from a good distance away as it's falling. Again, the downside is at this particular pond, once I saw that there was bass, and this is the first bait I saw that with, once I saw there was bass, they were all pretty small. I mean, this bait was about the size of the fish I was seeing, the size of the bass I was seeing in there. So I'd throw that, and they might look at it for a second, but then they turn around and run. While I was throwing that, I saw a couple of male fish. I'm guessing they're little males that were kind of swimming around the shore, and just kind of, I don't know, hunting, I guess. And I kind of was going to switch into one of my confidence baits, just something that was small. I was going to try, maybe a little ring fry, and I ended up rigging up a nose hook. Just a little round bend hook that I was going to use as a nose hook, and then I looked in my mystery tackle box and I saw I still had a bait in there that I had forgotten about. So I ended up nose hooking one of these little pack of slims on there, and that ended up being the only thing I caught fish on today. This got bit a couple of times, but it was a really subtle approach, and you were able to kind of throw that in there and let it sink on its own. Again, there's spots that are super shallow here, so I was able to get it to sink that 6 inches or so, and you could actually still see it and make a couple little twitches, and that was calling fish from a decent ways away. That the water here was a little clearer than I was expecting it to be once I actually got out there and started fishing it. I did, like I said, I caught a couple fish on there. I actually caught the biggest fish that I even saw out here on there, which is sad. I'm going to roll that through here. You'll see, I mean, it's just a little largemouth. Of course, as soon as I turn it off, you catch a fish. Little guys, this is actually the biggest fish I've seen swimming around. Saw him go over into some cover, pitched it up in there and caught him. Kind of depressing when that's how your day turns out, but decent little fish. Caught on the little tiny pack craw. I actually nose hooked the pack craw, so as soon as it moved, I just had to tighten it up and was able to land the fish. But yeah, I mean, all in all, I think this box, with this particular box, you'd be really successful if you were out doing a little bit more bed fishing, maybe just off beds on on a lake or on a place that maybe has a little bit of more decent sized fish in there. And I will definitely be bringing this out to a couple of other ponds around me that I know of that do hold better fish. But for me, it was a day of experimenting. I was able to kind of experiment on this pond I'd never been to. I figured out that they do have at least one fish out here, and it was fun. It was definitely